In this video, you will learn how to evaluate your existing PPC campaigns step by step and how to check that they are properly optimized. Our guest today in this session will be Mina Elias. He helps Amazon sellers to run Amazon advertising campaigns, and he also is a successful Amazon seller. This session is part of a Seller Fest online virtual event where we invite more than 20 speakers, Amazon experts, and this event is sponsored by few companies, and this session also is happening because one of the companies which are sponsoring is Getida, and Getida helps you with the FBA auditing and reimbursements. They can help you to claim money back from Amazon. Also, the next sponsor of this session is Perpetua. They run a e-commerce advertising platform for optimizing your campaigns on Amazon and also Walmart and a few other marketplaces. Check them out. All the links below of all the sponsors you will find below in the description. Unibrands is a FBA acquirer. They can acquire and buy your brand, build it, and they are interested in Amazon and Shopify brands. So if you are e-commerce seller on those platforms, get in touch with them if you want to exit. Z is a full service for compliance, for global expansion, for logistics. So it's a one-stop shop if you want to sell internationally across different marketplaces. And finally, last but not least, Helium 10 is also part of this event. And this is an all-in-one suite for Amazon and Walmart sellers. These companies sponsoring SellerFest Online, and you will find the links below in this description. If you will enjoy, at any time you enjoy this session, click the like button, and also don't forget to subscribe to Orange Klik's YouTube channel. This session I will be hosting with Lisette Lees. She works with different Amazon brands. Hello, Lisette.
Hi, Augustas, and hi, everybody else as well. Happy to have you here again for another awesome session where we have Mina as our guest. Hi, Mina. We're really excited to have you here with us today. And before we go to your presentation, could you first introduce yourself and tell us what you do in the Amazon space?
Sure. My name is Mina Elias, aka the Egyptian Prescription. I'm the founder and CEO of Trivium Group, which is an Amazon advertising agency partner. So we partner with your in-house team and we run your ads. We're like a partial team. We fully integrate, and then we have a like incredible system of running ads. We provide analytics, everything. I also have a couple of supplement brands. That's how I actually got started in the Amazon space. So 2018. I'm currently a MMA fighter. Probably not going to compete anymore, right? Getting maybe too old and having too much fun. But I created a supplement brand to help me perform better at the gym. I felt like Amazon was the best way to sell it, so I got it on Amazon, scaled it there, found that I was really good at advertising, started helping a few people, and then next thing you know, people started calling me the PPC guy, and so that's what I do now. So yeah, that's the quick and dirty on who Mina Elias is and what Trivium Group does.
Sounds really good. So I know today you will not have a presentation for us like many other experts do during this event. You will rather go inside of Advertising Manager and show us like how you do all the things you do there, right?
Exactly. So I think we have 2 sessions, and the more advanced one is the VIP. And in the VIP is where I'm going to show you like some of the optimizations and like if you open up the bulk sheets, exactly how to interpret the bulk sheets, what to do in the bulk sheets, how to optimize all of this kind of stuff. And so in this one, what I wanted to do is a lot of people come to me and they're like, okay, everything you're saying is amazing. There's so much to do. How do I take my existing account from where it is now to at least something that's clean, and then I can start applying this? So I'm just gonna go into the account, my existing account. Obviously, my existing account is already pretty clean, but I'm gonna show you kind of all of the areas that and everything that I would do step by step. So you can kind of watch this video, break it up, and then go into your own account and then say, okay, here's what I have to do in this part, here's what I have to do in that part, and go from what your account is now to a clean account that's nice and ready for optimization. And then I'm also gonna quickly share like the flow chart of the regular operations. I believe it's already shared in the VIP session, but I'm not going to actually get into too much detail. I'll just kind of talk about like, here's the things that you need to do on a regular basis. And I'm going to add as much information as possible. I just need to know how much time we have, because I can go on forever.
I think, yeah, it's like 30, 35 minutes is good, sweet spot. And I'm sure there will be a lot of questions because it's a very hot topic. And while Mina is preparing his screen, I wanted to mention that VP package, the link to VP you will find below in the description. And we will talk about it a little bit later as well. And yeah, if you're ready, Mina, we can go into the content.
Amazing. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to open up the campaign manager. I'm going to talk about, you guys can see everything clear, right? Was it?
Yes.
Perfect. So I'm going to talk about a few things like quickly before I dive into the stuff. So let's all align on the goal of Amazon advertising. The goal of Amazon advertising is to drive traffic as cheap as possible. And so there's two sides to that. The first side is the organic side. So as you rank organically for keywords, you're basically showing up in front of people when they're searching for things, and people click on you on your organic listing. That's free traffic. So that's the cheapest level of traffic, which is free. And then you have the paid side of it. And so driving traffic as cheap as possible, the way to kind of think about it is, what you're doing is you're kind of going in, you're saying, okay, I need to identify like what are some keywords that are profitable, and then continue to launch them. And let's give this analogy. It's like as if you're going fishing, and you don't know like what the fish like to eat. And so you get like a worm and a shrimp and maybe a dough and like a bunch of different baits, and you throw them in the water. And then two of them, the fish will go to them. The other eight, they won't. So you take them out, the eight ones, you take them out of the water. You keep the good ones. You say, okay, they started biting on the worms. Let's put some more worms. And then you get worms and you throw 10 different types of worms. And then based on those worms, two of the worms are working, the other ones aren't. You take them out. Now you have four baits in the water that are working. And Amazon, like PPC, is kind of very similar, right? I have no idea what keywords are working. But I'm going to go off of the data. So I'm going to say, okay, let's put some auto broad phrase keywords in there. Those are going to trigger for a lot of different keywords. Obviously, if you're like, okay, where do I even start? You can start with the auto campaigns. You can do some keyword research on Helium 10, look at your competitors, what they're ranking for, and then put some of that, like quote unquote, bait into the water. Then from there, you're going to wait a little bit of time. You're going to open up the search term report. The search term report will start showing you all of the different keywords that are being clicked on and that are converting. And so from there, you can say, okay, these ones converted. Let's take these ones and kind of throw them in the water or launch them in their own campaigns. And then the ones that are not working, you can start adding them as negatives if they spent too much money and they're not converting, to basically like pulling the bait out of the water. Say, okay, this one's not working. And so that's kind of the system, is to continuously do that. Initially, it's going to be expensive, right? Because you don't know like which ones are working. So you're putting in a bunch of keywords out there. 20% will work, 80% won't. It's not always like that, right? You can have 50-50 or something, but some will work, some won't. The ones that won't, you get rid of them. It's wasted spend, but not really wasted. It's an investment, right? You're studying, you're buying data. You actually bought the data that said that this is not a good keyword. And then the ones that worked, you keep them, and then you launch a new set of keywords. And then out of those, maybe the first group you found 5, the second group you find 5, and then as you do this over time, you start with nothing working, maybe 5 working, 10 not working, and then you work your way up to like 100 working, and then only like 10 that are not working, and then you take out the 10, you put in a new set of 10 keywords. So that's the way kind of to look at the ads, is you're trying to accumulate as many winning keywords as possible. And then from there, you're also trying to drive traffic as cheap as possible. It's a very simple equation. If you go and you look at your conversion rate, 1 divided by your conversion rate is the number of sessions required to make a conversion. And then if you look at your PPC spend and you look at how much sessions you're getting, PPC spend divided by the sessions you're getting is your cost per session. And so if your cost per session is $1, costs you $1 to drive a session, and your conversion rate is 10%, it means you need 10 sessions to make one conversion. So your cost of conversion is $10. On one side, you can improve your conversion rate. On another side, you can drop your cost of advertising. So dropping the cost of advertising means everything I'm going to show you now, which is making sure that you're not overspending on ads. Make sure that you don't have keywords that should be negative that's not negative. Make sure that any keywords that are the high bids and high ACOS, you kind of lower the bids. And then, if you have some sort of like, I don't want to say like bad practices, but like sometimes, for example, I see people with 100 keywords in their ad group. And in that case, you'll see that 5 of the keywords are spending and the other 90 are not spending. And what that's doing is you think that you're actually targeting 100 keywords, but you're only targeting like 5 or 10, and the other 80 or 90, you're not really targeting them because the top ones are taking all of the budget, the bottom ones aren't performing. So if you took those out and you put them in their own campaigns, now they start performing. And so those are the things where you can either scale your spend at the current cost per session, and if you have a cost per acquisition that works, that's amazing. You can continue to grow it, or you can actually find new very profitable keywords, dropping your existing cost per session. So that's kind of a summary. I just wanted to cover that so we're all kind of on the same page when I jump into this. The first thing I want to cover is portfolios. Organizing your campaign manager is very important because it allows you to manage things very easily in there. So the first thing is you want to have one portfolio per product. I haven't figured a way of deleting portfolios. I wish I could. Maybe I need to figure a way about. For now, the ones that you create will stay there. So these are kind of the ones that I have right now. It's one portfolio per product, and if you have variations, you have to. The way the portfolio works, it behaves to kind of mimic how your campaigns are going to be. So if your campaign is going to have like 4 different variations, your portfolio should say, this portfolio has all of the campaigns that have these 4 variations. If you decide to split your variations like I did, then you can have one portfolio for each variation. The whole goal is that whatever products are going to be in the campaigns that you put in the portfolio, that's going to be the portfolio, or the portfolio name is going to sort of signify that. So in terms of campaign names, the only way you can sort in bulk sheets. So bulk sheets is when you go here into sponsored ads and then click on bulk operations, and it's the only way that you can optimize bids and change bids and change things in your campaigns at scale. It's on an Excel sheet, so you can manipulate the data very quickly and do a lot of things very quickly. So the only way to sort products in the campaign in a bulk sheet is by campaign name. So you have to have some sort of unique identifier for your products. So the way that I would do it is have a product code at the beginning. So here you see HU, HEFP, SB in this case, because it's going to have all the products. And then it's the product code space dash space, and then what the ad type is. So for auto, is it close match, loose match, or complements or substitutes? Is it broad or phrase or exact? Is it product targeting? Is it category targeting? Is it sponsored brand? Is it sponsored display? Is it sponsored video? Is it a headline search ad? So whatever descriptor you can have of the type of campaign, I would put it in there. And then from there, you can talk about the source of the like where the products came from. So is it like a main keyword? Is it a ranking campaign? Is it you're targeting newest arrivals? Is it like in this example, is it a main keyword, electrolyte powder, phrase, where we're trying to rank for that one keyword? So just some sort of description, and then if there's a source of the keyword that you want to include, and then after that, like a number, just because you're gonna have the same name. So branded keywords, new branded keywords, we had 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 4. So there's so many of them. So we decided to just keep numbering them. And so the next thing I want to cover is I mentioned auto, loose match, close match, complements, and substitutes. Just a quick check. Can you guys hear me? Yes?
Yeah, everything all good. Yeah, sorry, it took a second for me to
amazing.
turn myself on, but everything is going great so far.
Okay, great. Okay, so the reason that I break the auto campaigns into 4 is because auto, like the close match, performs different than the loose, than the substitutes and the complements. So having them all together, number one, the budget gets split between the four, and you don't know how it gets split. So that's one thing that we don't have control over. And then the second thing is, what if the loose match is performing horribly, but the substitutes is performing amazing, and you just want to scale the substitutes, but you can't, because if you try and scale the budgets, some of the budget might go to the loose match, which is doing really bad, and then you kind of, you're not in a good spot. So breaking them into four allows you to figure out which ones are working better, scale them, and the other ones that are not working better, maybe it needs some more time for you to identify the bad keywords, add them as negatives, and then work through that until you have kind of a good like auto campaign that's working. So that's why I break them up into four, the different match types, and then this way I can kind of control them. So that's what I would do with the auto campaigns. Next is, and some people are gonna ask me, okay, Mina, I already have existing the four auto campaigns together. What do I do? So what you would do is, if there's any of them that are not working, have like no, in the last 30 days, very low spend or whatever, you can turn those off and relaunch them, right? Because you have nothing to lose. They're already not performing. If they are performing well, I would leave them. I wouldn't mess around with them. Try and optimize the bids to get a high ROAS and continue to scale the budget. If you start noticing that the budget is heavily flowing to one of the two, just know that second one is kind of going to be like a lost cause, because as you scale the budget, it's just going to keep going to like substitutes, an example, instead of like close match. And so then you can turn off the close match and then relaunch the close match. But if both of them are working and it's equal, just leave them as is, because I never want to turn off anything that's working. It's kind of like a last resort if I really feel like I've done everything possible, optimized everything, and the old stuff is holding me back. So next, I'm going to look at budgets. So a lot of people, I noticed that they have very low budgets in their campaigns. If your campaigns are performing well, so let's go here. If you notice that the ROAS is high, like for me, anything above a 2, honestly, is pretty good at this point, because it's like supplements are very competitive. But anything that I notice that has a good ROAS, and I notice a lot of the times there's campaigns that have really good ROAS. If they do, you should scale the budget right away. There was one person that we came into their account, and then we noticed that they just had $10 and $20 and $50 budgets, $37 budgets. And then what we did was we found the campaigns that are performing well, scaled it to 200, 300, 500, and then add that same performance. We just sold a lot more, and we took them from, I think, $6,000 to $12,000 a day in sales, like almost overnight. And so don't sleep on budgets. The way that you should look at budgets is make the budget as big as possible, and then make the bids. You can make the bids low to control the spend. So if you're like, I can afford 20 campaigns, 30 campaigns at $1,000 budget, that's fine. Do $1,000 budget and do a super low bid to start, and then work your way up. But as you work your way up, you'll notice that you're not going to spend that much money, right? Because if you put $1,000 budget and a 10-cent bid, nothing's going to happen. You're just not going to show because you're too low in the bid. But as you work up, you're going to start moving up the pages, and eventually you hit that sweet spot. It's also very important to know, like, are you one of those people that are constantly winning at the top of search first page, or one of those people that on page 2 or 3 you can convert well? And so once you identify that, it's okay. You can scale the budgets, keep the bids low, and then work your way up. But definitely, if the ROAS is high, scale the budget. Then I'm gonna jump into a few campaigns. So let's open up, like, this is a campaign. Let's do, for example, this one. Okay, so next thing that I look at in a campaign is the number of ad groups. So if there's multiple ad groups here, this is an issue because you can't really control where the budget goes. And sometimes I'll see people with the $100 budget. They have $30 per ad group, 3 ad groups. That's 90 keywords that are in the campaign at a $30 budget. The cost per click is $1. So it's like, how are you going to spend the money on those keywords, right? It's not gonna work out. So if you notice that you have multiple ad groups, whatever ad groups are not really working, turn it off. If an ad group is working, what I would do is click on it, open up the different ad groups, and then you can look at all of the keywords. And this is the next step, right? Is to kind of open up the ad groups, and then look at the keywords. So I'm going to go here into targeting, and I'm going to look at the keywords. In this case, we have 1. But if I had, let's say, 50 or 100, which is the next thing I was going to cover. What if you have so many different keywords? The 50 or 100 keywords, you can sort by sales. And then you can see, which keywords are bringing in the sales, which keywords are not bringing in the sales. All of the keywords that are not bringing in sales, you can just turn them off because they anyways aren't bringing sales, so it's not going to hurt you. Try and limit your campaigns to have like 5 keywords tops per campaign, per ad group, I guess, in this case. Now, if like I said, if you have 8 or 10 that are currently working, don't turn anything that's working off. Pause all of the ones that are not working, because it's like I said, you're not going to lose anything. That's totally fine. But if it is working, leave it as a last kind of resort, is to go in and audit those campaigns and then find the keywords that are maybe making one sale every 30 days and say, okay, what if I just turned this off and launched it in its own campaign and gave it a lot more budget and didn't put it with these other keywords? Could it, instead of getting one sale in the last 30 days, get 5 or 10? And that's how you can kind of tap into that unrealized like potential that a lot of people have. And so again, to summarize, you're going to go in here. If you have a lot of keywords, what you're going to do is you can sort by sales, pause anything that's not kind of performing. And then if it is performing, keep it. And later on, you can revisit it. And if it's only gotten like one sale or something, then you can turn it off and relaunch it. And then before I jump into the keywords, I'm just going to go back a step. And then from here, this is the ad groups. Yeah. So the different ad groups, just make sure that whatever's left from those ad groups is only ad groups that have keywords that are working and that are profitable. By the way, if there are keywords that are not profitable as well, you can choose to lower the bids and all that stuff, but it's a chance for you to relaunch them. If they're not profitable, it doesn't hurt to relaunch them anyway. So I would turn off the ones that are also not profitable and then launch them in new campaigns. Then I would look at placements. So here in placements, what I'm looking for is at which placement did my performance, did I have the best performance? And when I say best performance, I mean a combination of click-through rate and return on ad spend. Okay, yeah, so basically for placements, I'm looking at what has the combination of the highest ROAS and the most significant click-through rate. So in this case, what I'm seeing is in the rest of the search, it has the best return on ad spend. So there's really not much I can do here because I can't control how much I show in the rest of the search. But I can control where I show up in the top of the search or product pages. This is, by the way, not the best practice. So the best practice should be to do either one or the other. In this case, let's say that the return on ad spend for top of search first page was high, like 5 or 10 or something, and better than the other ones. What I would say is, okay, Amazon, I'm willing to spend 50% more, 100% more, 200% more to show up on that top of search first page, because based on this data, I have this historic data that I've performed well in that position. So I'm willing to kind of show up there more often. So that's where I would use the placements. I would audit to make sure if I'm performing really good in one of the placements, I'm going to show up more. And so that's kind of what I would do in terms of on like the outside. I'm going to jump into some of the like broad campaigns. Or here's a good one. So loose match is good too, right? Because it's an auto campaign. So now we're going to go into the next step, which is the auto campaign. So the close match, loose match, complement substitutes, or broad or phrase. These campaigns are campaigns where we put in keywords or auto campaign. We just launched it, and Amazon used its data to trigger for a lot of these different keywords. And so in this case, we're using Amazon's data to figure out what's working and what's not working. So we want to audit to make sure that the stuff that is working, we're extracting, and the stuff that's not working, we're killing it. So I would go here into search terms, right, in one of these campaigns. And I would, let me just redo this. I would filter by, and I'd say orders equals 0. And you can do this obviously at bulk, in the search term report. But in this case, I would go in here and I would sort by spend. And I would have some sort of spend cap. So in this case, let's say that my spend cap is $7 or $5. So anything that spent $5 or more and didn't make a sale, I want to kind of like negative that. So I'm glad that there's some here that we missed, but every single week you should be going in and identifying, okay, what are the keywords that we're spending money on and we're not converting. These ones are making us no sales, and we're not converting on them. You would choose those and add them as negative. So you could copy these. I could just go in, copy these, and then go into negative targeting, and then add negative keywords, and then I would put those keywords in here. Now, the difference between negative exact and negative phrase, I would add always as negative exact unless it's a keyword that you never want to see under any circumstances. So the example I always use is I was running ads for a card holder. It's a credit card holder, and then a vaccine card holder showed up as a keyword. Now, in no instance ever will my product work for anything vaccine related, because it can't hold a vaccine card. It can only hold credit cards. So I would negative phrase vaccine because I don't want to see the word vaccine anywhere. But in terms of any other keyword, we just add as negative exact because that keyword didn't perform. It spent money. We want to stop spending money there, and so that will lower how much money we're spending on ads, and it's gonna give us like a better cost per session, right? Which goes back to the beginning. Given that we have the same conversion rate, we just need to lower the cost per session to become more profitable. And then the other side of it is, okay, what are the keywords that performed really well? So let's say I put here, show me any keyword that had a greater than 3x ROAS, so which is a 33% ACoS or less. And then here are the keywords or product targets that showed up. What I would do is I would take all of these keywords and product targets and make sure that I'm not already targeting this. I would say deduplicate them, which basically means you go into your bulk sheets, you identify what you have as a broad, a phrase, an exact, and an ASIN, and then you say, okay, those keywords, do I have them as broad? If I do have them as broad, I'm not going to launch them. If you might have some yes, some no. If I don't have them, if they're unique in that match type, I will launch them in their own campaigns. Put 5 in a campaign. Give them a nice budget. Start at the cost per click that they're currently spending. So let's see here. I would show the cost per click. So they're currently spending 145, whatever. So whatever that search term is, I would just use that same cost per click. For broad, phrase, and exact, don't worry too much about that whole exact needs to have a higher bid than phrase and broad. I don't believe in that competing of the keywords between the different match types, because for exact, that one keyword shows up all the time. For phrase, it probably triggers for 20 different keywords. So that one keyword shows up 1 out of 20 times. And in broad, it's even less. So that one keyword shows up 1 in like 50 times. So you don't have to worry about them competing, because they're going to compete once every blue moon. It's not a huge deal. So yeah, that's how I would identify profitable search terms that are working well. Make sure that they're unique. You're not already targeting them, and launch them in more campaigns. And so that kind of covers like the majority of the auditing process. And so again, I'm going to start summarizing. We're going to go in here. First, we're going to make sure our portfolios are all set. They have the correct names. There's a product code associated with them. Then I'm going to make sure all of my campaign names are good. They have a product code in there, so it's easy to identify what product they're for. Then they have the type of ad, and then they have whether it's broad or phrase or exact, that kind of stuff. And then the source. Then from there, I'm going to look at the budgets. I'm going to make sure that the budgets are adequate enough, and we're able to spend money where we have a good return on ad spend. If the return on ad spend is not so good, then I would lower the bids on the keywords until I have a good return on ad spend, and then scale the budgets. Then from there, I'm going to go into a campaign. Let's pick, okay, let's go here. I'm going to go into a campaign and make sure that I don't have multiple ad groups. If I have multiple ad groups, I'm going to go into the different, if an ad group is basically not spending money, just turn it off, pause it. If an ad group is spending money, I'm going to go in and I'm going to identify, I'm going to look at all of the keywords. I'm going to sort by sales. I'm going to identify which keywords are not spending any money or whatever. Essentially, they're not working. Pause all of those. Keep only what's working. If it's something that's not profitable, again, it's a chance for you to pause it because it's not profitable, so you have nothing to lose here. And then you can relaunch them in their own campaign. So that will clean up the ad groups. And then once you're in the ad groups, like I said, you want to clean up everything based on the like performance and the sales, and have try and shoot for 5 keywords. Like I said, if it's working, don't do anything. But moving forward, try and limit it to like 5 keywords. Again, this is a number that I made up. It's just based on seeing that usually the top 5 keywords in a campaign are performing. Everything else is not performing that well. Next, I'm going to go into the search terms. I'm going to identify anything that is not making us any money. So basically orders equals to 0. And then set some sort of target. For me, it's about 1.25 times the cost per acquisition. So if my target cost per acquisition is $5, which means I can spend $5 out of my gross profit to make a sale, then I'm up to $7.50 I'm willing to spend. And if that keyword doesn't convert, I'm going to negative it. And so, or sorry, 1.25 isn't a 7.5. It's more like 6.75, something like that. But anyways, you get the gist. So I'm going to take those keywords, add them as negatives in here, negative exact, not negative phrase, unless it's a certain keyword that I don't want to see in any conditions. And then from there, I'm going to also identify all of the keywords here that are profitable. So I have a good ROAS, extract those, and then add them you make sure that they're unique and we're not already targeting them. And then I'm going to add them, in their own campaigns. But that's summarize it. Do we have time for questions now?
Yeah, we do have. So let me take your screen away. So can you turn on your camera so we could see you as well? It seems that the connection is good enough. So thank you so much for going through. We do have questions and we do have time for questions as well. So I guess let's get started. So let's
see a lot of questions.
Yeah, let's take the first one. So would you ever re-add keywords that were not successful to a new ad group?
Yeah, definitely. So, first of all, if you're gonna re-add them, you can put them in a new campaign. But a lot of times, like let's say they were not successful when you had 100 reviews, but now you have 500 reviews, and you revamped your listing. Then yeah, I would re-add them that they were once not successful, but I would give them a chance to perform again. So yeah, the answer is yes, and I also said when I would do it.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So let's take another one. Mina, how do you find unique values, keywords in the search term report that you're not targeting? Do you compare the search term report with the targeting report? If so, how do you do that?
Okay, I'll send you guys the deduplication sheet as a free gift, to the Orange Klik people. But yeah, basically, what I do is I have this sheet. You can pull all the search terms, put it in one column, and then put broad. You go into the bulk sheets, pull the broad keywords, put the phrase, put them, and then there's a formula that will cross-check and say, is this keyword present here? If yes, don't show it. If no, then show it as a unique value. So it'll show the unique broad, the unique phrase, the unique exact.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So let's see what we have here as well. So do you optimize your bids based on the cost per acquisition? What are the main metrics when you want to optimize your PPC reports? For example, filter ACOS, spend, orders, etc.
I don't optimize my bids based on cost per acquisition. Cost per acquisition is just kind of a blended number at the end that shows up that's indicative of like my performance. So if my current cost per acquisition is like $8, I'm like, okay, at $8, maybe I'm not super sustainable. I need to bring that down to 6. And so I'll take actions, and the actions that I would take are going to be adding negatives, lowering bids, looking at the placements, making sure that I'm showing up in the right placements, maybe launching profitable search terms to bring that cost per acquisition down. The main metrics that I'm looking at when I'm optimizing PPC is my cost per click and my percent sales driven by that keyword, and then obviously the ACOS. So if the ACOS is above, and by the way, I'll set like this arbitrary number because it's all iteration. So I'll say, okay, maybe 50% ACOS is my goal, right? And I don't know the answer. I'm just let's start somewhere, right? It's like you're eating and you're like, let's start at 2,000 calories. Let's see what happens. And so if I'll say 50% ACOS is the number, and then anything above it, I'll gradually lower. And then I use cost per click because if my max bid is above my cost per click, it's no point in lowering the max bid because I lower it and it's still above the cost per click, it's still gonna stay not profitable. And then the final metric that I look at is the percent of sales driven. If a keyword is driving a significant amount of sales, like 10%, 15%, then I don't want to like lower the bids a lot because I might lose 10 or 15% of my sales. So those are the metrics I look at. Generally, ACOS, if the ACOS is high, lower the cost per, make the new max bid a little bit lower than the cost per click. And again, it's iterative. So I'll lower by 5 cents, lower by 5 cents, lower by 7 cents, by 10 cents, whatever, slowly. Because if I'm here and I want to be here, I'll just inch my way there, as opposed to try like to nail it on the head, which will never happen.
All right, we have a few more. Well, I know.
We have many more.
Many more. Like I see, like almost 20 piled up. So, Mina, you should practice your quick answering skills.
But I think Mina is doing. But Mina, I think, is already pretty good at giving like quick answers. And like I mentioned before, when Mina lost his connection, I commented the VIP video we recorded together. Like the speed, how Mina analyzes the data and works in an Excel sheet, it's like next level. So yeah.
Actually, it's good that
I live inside Excel.
Yeah, it's good that you brought the VIP package. So let's talk about one more time about the VIP session we have recorded with you. So first, I wanted to explain that VIP package, which is available with the link below in the description, contains additional more than 20 videos, to be precise, 21 additional videos with all the speakers from SellerFest Online event, and they share with us additional worksheets, templates, how-tos, and yeah, you can purchase this VIP package as well. And Mina, what do you present in your session? Could you?
Yeah, so in my VIP session, basically, I'm gonna go into the bulk sheet, and in the bulk sheet, there's 3 things that you can do. You can optimize bids, you can optimize placements, and then you can also optimize budgets. So I'll talk about optimizing the budgets. I talk about optimizing the bids, and then I'll show you like exactly how I highlight everything, sort and filter, color coded. It's like exactly everything that you need to do, and I go over my flow of like, this is what I do on a weekly basis. Like, these are all of the different steps that I take on a weekly basis, what the criteria for each step is. I explain how I came up with the criteria, and then I actually show it in a spreadsheet, color coded. I mean, you can literally like hire a VA and tell them to take screenshots and build an SOP, and then you can just start implementing this. So it's not a secret, right? It's just you have to do it very efficiently and in a cost-effective way.
Yeah, great. So let's move on with the last 20 questions. Fab is saying, what's the best sponsored display ads type you find right now?
There's no such thing as best that I find. So I always test everything, and then whatever the data says, the data says. I've never found some sort of like best across the board. There's some we have some products, sponsor brand kills everything else, and so we just run a bunch of sponsor brand, and then there's others where sponsor brand and display don't do anything. Sponsored display retargeting views is usually very profitable, but again, there's no best. Just launch everything, and whatever the data tells you, follow that.
I like that you didn't say it depends. It's like very universal. It depends. But you said that you have to look at data and then it will work. Sema wants to know, how should we create campaigns for products with color variations, and which ads do you recommend?
Okay, so with color variations, it can go one of 2 ways. It could not matter, and you could put all of the colors together in one campaign, or one color could outperform the other colors. This is how to figure it out. You can start by putting all of the colors together in a campaign and launching a few. If you start noticing that there's one color that's performing really well, and other colors get like a lot of clicks, but then very low ROAS or like very high ACOS, it's probably that people are going in from one color and choosing another. So then your other option would be to separate the colors out and run a few campaigns and test it that way. If you notice that the budget is better allocated for that main color that's performing the best, then keep going in that direction. However, if you notice that in the first place, you're getting more people to click on, and you can obviously compare the click-through rates. If you notice that the click-through rate is higher when you had all of them together, then people are clicking more for the different colors and just buying one. That's totally fine. Keep moving in that direction. But if you notice that overall the performance is better when you split them out and you just put that same, let's say $100 that you put here, you put it in just one color variation, then stick to advertising that one color variation. That's how I would test for the two. But for me, some people have worked where I put everything together. Some people, no matter, and it's not only color variations. This can be like a variation of anything, like a facial moisturizer and eye moisturizer. It could be a chocolate that tastes like banana and a chocolate that tastes like strawberry, right? Whatever. Can be anything, and we've tried it for everything, and we usually have to test and then come up with the conclusion.
All right, next out of 20 questions. Just launched a product, generated 5 sales first 2 days of launch. 10 sales today after launching PPC with 13% ACOS, 1 auto and 4 broad. What strategy do you recommend for growing from this stage?
Okay, so congratulations on doing well so far. So what I would do is next, after I would say wait 7 days or so, go open up the search term report and identify exactly which search terms from the auto and the broad campaigns are the ones that resulted in these sales, profitable sales. Extract those, launch them in new campaigns as broad, phrase, and exact. So launch them in all different match types because we have no idea what match type they're going to perform the best in, and then basically continue to do that. And so what you're going to do is you're going to go every week into the search term report, extract the profitable ones, deduplicate them, make sure you're not already have them in a campaign, and then launch new campaigns to continue to get more sales from those keywords that have demonstrated an ability to perform well. And then at the same time, identify all of the keywords that are have a high ACOS or have a high spend and no sales, and add them as negatives so that you can keep having a better and better auto and broad campaigns. But so far it seems like the product has a good conversion rate, so you just have to scale. Also, increasing budgets can help. So if your budgets aren't already high, keep growing them.
Okay, very good. So let's take another one. How many keywords or ASINs do you add in one campaign?
If I'm trying to rank for that specific keyword, grow my organic rank, then 1. Otherwise, I like to limit up to 5. This is not like a number that is has any fact or anything. You can put 20 if you want, but what you're going to notice is that when you put 20 or 30 or 50, that the top 5 or 7 are getting all the spend and the rest are not. So I like now to limit it to 5. Obviously you can have 1 only for everything. That's cool. But I think, it's going to be a little bit unmanageable. So I'll just do 5.
Okay, very nice. So here's a bit longer one. So do you grade campaigns based on search volume and match type? For example, if you think a few keywords have high search volume, so they will take most of the traffic, and then put other keywords in other campaigns with less search volume.
Correct. Yeah. So I do create campaigns based on search volume and based on match types. So I never mix match types together because match types will get different amounts of traffic. So broad will generally get a lot more traffic than a phrase, which will get a lot more traffic than exact, because by definition, a broad keyword will trigger for 50 keywords. So you have 50 times higher likelihood of showing up as opposed to, one exact keyword. So separate by match type, and yes, also separate by search volume. Very high search volume keywords will generally take all of the spend and the budget, because I'm assuming based on Amazon, they're saying we're trying to get you to convert the most amount of time, and so for that to happen, we probably need to use keywords that you're going to show up the most for. And so even if you're going to be super profitable for a keyword that has 1,000 searches a month, you're going to convert more times total for a keyword that has 30,000 searches a month. So that's what will happen. So yes, separate based on search volumes.
Okay, very cool. So let's take another one from here. So we'll have to disagree with the minimal keywords in one campaign. If very low volume keywords, for example, under 100, you will need more to get placement data. Do you have any thoughts about it?
Yeah, I don't see why putting more keywords in a campaign will allow you to show up more for those keywords than if you had them in their own campaigns. So for very low volume keywords, basically what's going to happen is if you have 100 of them, in a campaign, then yeah, you because there's low searches and there's a lot of them, you will like the campaign itself will look like it shows more. But if you broke that campaign up into 20 campaigns and you aggregated those 20 campaigns performance, there's a high chance that probably you'll get more impressions. But again, we can always split test that. Nothing is fact here. I'm not the inventor of Amazon PPC. I'm just sharing basically what I've done and what's worked for me, what hasn't worked. But if anyone wants to test this, you can always do 100 keywords, low search volume in one campaign, and then compare that to 20 campaigns with 5 keywords each, and then see if the performance is different and which one the performance is better, and then draw your own conclusions.
As one of the inventors of Amazon PPC, I would like to say that what you are sharing, it makes sense. And I liked how previously you called our people Orange Klik people. So Orange Klik people, we still have 15 questions. I think it will be enough for time being. Well, if you will write more, we will have to invite Mina in the next weeks again. So Sema wants to know, when you create a manual campaign with the words you found in the automatic campaign, do you add them as negative keywords in the automatic campaign? No.
No. If a keyword is performing and making you money, never add it as a negative, because you could launch it and then it could not make money, and then you basically shut down something that was making money with the hopes that it was going to make money when you relaunched it, but it didn't. So never negative anything that's making money.
And next one is from Keith. On a product launch, what are your suggestions for PPC? How should we bid in relevance to the suggested bid? Do we need to take reviews into consideration when doing PPC?
Yeah, so this depends on your budget, unfortunately. But let's say that you had a big budget. You should definitely allocate a budget towards organic keyword ranking. So maybe have a list of 15 to 20 keywords that you want to rank organically. Have one keyword per campaign, big bids, big budgets, and launch them to kind of aggressively get the ranking up. And then on the other side, it is the honeymoon period in the first I would say 45 to 90 days. So you want to get as many sales as possible because it's the honeymoon period, because that's where Amazon is establishing your history. And for me, I've launched products where we went hard right off the bat and we got a lot of sales, and then I've launched products where we took it slow, and it was very hard to recover from the ones where we took it slow. I almost have never recovered. And so how should you bid to relevance to the suggested bid? If you have the budget to afford it, go higher. If you don't have the budget, if you're very tight on budget, go low at the low end of the bid spec, like the bid range, and then work your way up slowly. So hopefully you can hit that sweet spot without wasting too much money. But again, remember that spending money means you're buying data. So the faster you spend money, the faster you buy that data, and the faster you can make a decision.
Thank you. And I wanted to thank all our Orange Klik people for writing very nice questions without too many abbreviations. Sometimes when we read questions fast, it's difficult to grasp. So, Jody, how many keywords do you start with for a new product?
Generally, I think I would say around 50. So auto campaigns, and then the main keywords to rank, I would say about 10. So that's going to be about 30 campaigns for ranking the keywords, and then about 40 more keywords that I would say will probably cover the spectrum of very high relevancy keywords, from a very high search volume all the way down to maybe 1,000 searches a month. That's usually what I found. And then those 50 are enough to help a lot with the indexation and getting traffic. And then from there, it's going to take 7 days. And after 7 days, I already can grab a bunch of new keywords from the search term report that were profitable and launch them in their own campaigns.
Perfect. So not 49, not 51, but 50.
Yeah.
All right.
Again, yeah, it's a good point. So, guys, this is it's just a guide, right? Don't worry if you do 55 or you do 45. It's not going to be a big difference. This is kind of just I have to tell my employees to do something, right? They're going to say, how many keywords should we launch? I can't say whatever you feel like today. So I just said, okay, 50 seems like a good place to start. And then, in a week, we'll go from there.
Yeah. Girl, what's an easy way with so many campaigns to make sure you are not already targeting a keyword before you separate out to put in a new campaign?
The duplication sheet. I'll send it to you guys. Again, you're going to put the search terms, and then from your bulk sheet, you're going to put all of the different keywords that you're already targeting, and it's going to tell you which keywords in the search term are unique to which match types.
Yeah, you will find the link below to download this sheet. Next question is from Jody. One, you mentioned to pause or turn off ad groups keywords. What time frame are you looking at?
Usually 30 days. This doesn't apply if you're seasonal. If you're seasonal, look at like lifetime, right? And it's going to be very hard. You're going to have to like audit every single keyword, because you have to make sure that when it was performing super well, like in December, that you don't pause it now because in the last 30 days it didn't get any sales. So generally, if it's a normal steady product, I'll do like last 30 days. If it hasn't performed in the last 30 days, it is what it is, right? It might as well, like, maybe if it performed in the last 60 days, okay, keep it. But generally, if it didn't perform in the last 30 days, it's not a big deal if you turn it off, right? Because it hasn't done anything in the last 30 days.
Okay, very good. So let's take a question from Alan. Do you ever add negative exact to phrase ad group for the same keyword?
I'm not sure. So are you saying, do you ever add a negative exact and then a negative phrase for the same keyword? Doesn't matter, right? Because if you add it as a negative phrase, it also is a negative exact. So like I said, the only time that I use negative phrase is if that phrase itself or keyword, I never want to see it in any condition. So for the example, like if you're selling like some sort of like tube, and it says like something like plumbing, and the tube is like maybe used for like a drinking or something, I don't know, and it says plumbing, you're like, okay, this is never going to be a plumbing thing, this is a drinking thing. So you add it as a negative phrase for that reason.
Okay, very good. So is there any advantage to add each variation in different ad group instead all variations in the same ad group?
Don't do different ad groups. Like I said, only do one ad group per campaign, because once you do different ad groups, you cannot control where the budget is going. So you could, let's say you do the chocolate in one ad group, the vanilla another ad group, and then the chocolate is performing amazing, the vanilla is performing really bad. It could just be that Amazon is sending all the budget to the chocolate. But if you took the vanilla out and you put the vanilla its own thing, it performs amazing. So if you're going to join variations together, put them all in the same ad group, all in the same campaigns. If you're going to separate the variations, then separate the campaigns and have them in separate portfolios as well.
Awesome. So we now have less than 10 questions left. Thank you so much for great content, Mina. How much should someone budget for PPC on a new product launch that has tons of competition, listings, but low reviews?
So generally, the way that I look at it is based on profit margin. So I would budget if you're spending, let's say your profit margin is 50%. Months 1 to 3, my budget is going to be for PPC is going to be to spend 50% of all of my revenue, and then month 3 to 6, I'm going to go to 75% of that. So if I'm spending $10, if my profit is $10 per unit, I'm going to start spending $7.50 per unit on sales, on ads, sorry, to make sales. And then that's 3 to 6, and then month 7 to 12, I'll go down to 50%, and then month 12 onwards, I'll maybe cut it down from 50 to 35%. So in the first 3 months, I want to spend all of my profit margin on ads to get that sales velocity. Beyond that, like I said, 3 to 6 go down to 75%, 7 to 12 go down to 50%, and then beyond that, a little bit lower. So it all depends on what your revenue is. Just do a percentage of that, because you can't budget a number because it's very directly proportional to your revenue. So if your revenue is going to be 100,000, you can't say, I'm going to budget $1,000. You're going to budget whatever percentage of that $100,000.
Okay, very good insight. So if all variations in same ad group, then how one can control which variation will get more impressions than others?
You can't, but this is where you're depending on Amazon to cycle through your variations and and show the ones that I think it's going to convert better. So this is like I said, this is a time where you can depend on Amazon. However, you can always test doing it separately on your own and seeing what performs better. But some in a lot of cases, not 100% sure why, but I've seen when I put like all of the variations together, and then Amazon just shows whichever one works best, you end up Amazon ends up showing the ones that have the higher likelihood of converting. So that's kind of why I do that.
Okay, perfect. So Keith is asking, what do you do if you are not converting on a keyword that describes your product the best?
You forget that keyword, because it's not about you and what you think. It's about what the customer is choosing, and so that's what the data tells us. So if you're not converting on a keyword that describes your product, doesn't matter. It just means that the data is showing that this is not a good keyword for you. You move on. And honestly, like, the less emotional you can get about it, the better. So stop looking at keywords. Just look at data. If a keyword is performing well, good. If a keyword is not performing well, add it as a negative, whatever. It doesn't matter how much you want it to perform well. If it just doesn't perform well, it's, just move on to the next, and try get as many high performing keywords as possible to only be the ones that are running.
Mm-hmm. Very good. So Rodrigo is asking, how can I deny product page placement? Not good conversion rate. My top of search is great. How to prioritize or uniquely use?
So you can do that by kind of like lowering the bid and then increasing the top of search placement bid, but it doesn't always work that way. So let's say your bid is $1 and you have a 100% top of search placement. That means you're willing to spend up to $200 to show up for the top of the search. Now, if you don't want to show up for the rest of the search or the product pages, what you can do is you can lower maybe your bid to 50 cents and then do a 300% or 400% top of search first page, which will still spend $2 to show you up for the top of the search. Now, that will mean that in the rest of the search and the product pages, your ranking is super low. So you're maybe on page 4 or 5. No one's really going to see you. But because you're able to spend to show up on the top of the search, you will. But that's not a science. So you kind of have to play with it and see if that actually works. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that's kind of the only way that you can try and achieve what you're trying to achieve.
HM and MH says, thank you very much, Orange, Klik, and Mina, for session. All right. Also, Earl John, thank you for the insights, Mina. Great session. Mina, guess how many more questions we still have?
I don't know.
Guess
a lot.
Two-digit number. No, actually, we have 5, and we have 5 more. Maybe we'll see. But okay. Let's take another question from Rodrigo. No, this we did, right?
Yeah, we just took it. Yeah.
Yeah, Jody, how do you keep a log of all the changes you make?
So we have a Slack channel, and this is obviously for all of the different clients. We have a Slack channel. For my brands, we have a Slack channel. My brands are treated as a client. And then every single time we do any sort of optimization or anything, we send that optimization in the Slack. We also have a Notion board. And then every week, for all of the brands that we have, a new, page is created with the dates of what the week is. And then every single time you take an action on one of the brands, you have to kind of attach the attachments of everything that you've done. So everything is saved in the Slack channel and everything is saved in the Notion board. So if you ever need to go back, you can. And this has helped because sometimes we've noticed that sales have dipped and we're like, what did we do? And then so we go and we look at all of the changes we made. Now we color code all of our sheets. So the bulk sheets, the search term reports, any of that kind of stuff, it's all color coded so we know what we touched. And so we can very quickly show me everything that we touched. Let's look at the changes, and then you can kind of very quickly see what changes you've made. And did you maybe one keyword was driving 30% of the sales, you lowered the bids by accident significantly, and then you lost a lot of your sales. So that's how we keep track.
Next, from Fauzan. I have noticed sometimes when changing bits impression get throttled, so it seems bit changing is not always the answer. Is my assumption right?
Yeah, I mean, bit changes isn't always the answer. The only thing that we really can control is your bids and then where you're showing. So if you have a high bid and you're showing up in the top and then you show lower, that's the only thing you can do. If you have a very low click-through rate, if you have a very low conversion rate for the keyword, it just might mean that people don't want to convert for this, and there's really no solution. But what I can do is I can take an ad from page 1 to page 3, and if someone goes to page 3 and still manages to click on it, then they must have some sort of like buyer intent, or else why are they going kind of solo? So that's why, I mean, that's the only thing we can do. I understand that it's not always a solution, but there's only so many levers that we can pull.
So Fauzan is asking, why do you need to run auto campaign and do some waste spend if we constantly run Cerebro on competitors ASIN and spy on competitors ASIN?
It's not wasted spend, because if you run the Cerebro and you launch these keywords, and then you run the auto, and then it gets also triggers for keywords, you don't know the answer until you actually get the data. So in both cases, you're going to spend money, and in both cases, once you get the data, you're then going to utilize that data and launch more keywords that have converted. So it doesn't matter how you do it. If you do it with auto or you do it with the Cerebro, you still have to buy the data. So it's not wasted spend. And then for me personally, I've seen that auto campaigns perform incredibly well. They actually are one of the best performing campaigns that we usually see, if they're launched and the SEO on the product is done well from the beginning. So if the auto campaigns are you consider them wasteful, you just might not have a good auditing strategy. But auto campaigns have straight up Amazon data. They will immediately get from Amazon that data, and they will show you where Amazon thinks that you can convert. So they're pretty powerful.
All right. Sema wants to know, do you apply your PPC workflow pattern for each product group, for each product?
Yeah, for every single product or product group, it's the same thing, which is you download the bulk sheets, optimize the bids. High ACOS, you lower the bids. Low ACOS, increase the bids or keep them the same. Spend and no sales, lower the bids. Low impressions, increase the bids. Look at the placements. If it perform in a good place, you optimize the placements. You look at the budgets. If there's a good campaign ROAS, you increase the budgets. Download the search term report. Anything that has high ACOS or spend and no sales, add them as negatives. Anything that's profitable and unique, you take them, launch them in their own campaigns. And then we do some stuff with the sponsored brand display and video. We identify maybe any keywords that we're trying to rank for organically, launch them. We protect our brand placements with all of the different types of ads. And then maybe if there's a keyword that we're not able to convert well for, using sponsored products, we try a different type, like sponsored video, or maybe if it is converting well, we try adding sponsored video, see if we can get more sales by having a second placement. But also we have to be very careful, because if you have two placements showing up on the same page, the same person could click twice and you spent more money for the same session, which would increase your cost per session.
Great. I have good and bad news. Good news is that people are very happy. Thank you, Mina. Amazing presentation, Mina. And the bad news is that we still have 3 questions. So
it's good news. It's still good news.
Sam is asking, if I added many negative keywords in campaigns, should I pause them and start from scratch?
No, I mean, you're adding negatives to a campaign because basically you're taking something broad that is showing for a lot of keywords, and then like distilling it and saying it's not this one, not this one, not this one, not this one. Keep these ones that are performing well. And so just because you took a campaign that has a lot of keywords and distilled them into a campaign that has few keywords but performing well doesn't mean that it's a bad campaign and that you need to start from scratch. However, those campaigns that you added them as negatives, you could always try and like relaunch them in their own campaigns and give them a second chance, because maybe in their own campaigns they can perform better. So yeah, again, at the end of the day, you're throwing different baits out. You're seeing what works and then what's not working. Usually you should be able to get to a pretty significant amount of sales doing this. If you hit a plateau, you can always say, okay, what are all the keywords that I've added as negatives that I'm not running, and let's run them.
Great. So I have good news that we have left only 1 question, not 2. I'm not so
That's
good
good.
in numbers. So the last question, Keith, what PPC tips do you have in regards to a product that went out of stock?
Identify, I guess, what your organic ranking is. I would use something like Data Dive, Brandon Young. Look at your organic. Try, by the way, as you're about to run out of stock, maybe run a data dive and save it, so you can see where your organic ranking is, and then run another one. Compare. Maybe track all of the keywords in Keyword Tracker, and then everything. Once you come back in stock, everything that you've ranked really low for organically, start launching broad phrase exact keyword campaigns to try and rank up. It's not an easy solution. When you run out of stock, Amazon penalizes you. You lose a lot of your organic rank, and you have to spend a lot of money to come back for that organic rank. So it is going to cost money. There's no hacks. There's just spending money to get back to the top and convert more, and then hopefully you get back there.
All right, perfect. So, Mina, it has been such a great session together with you. As Augustus already mentioned, everybody are so excited. And despite some technical issues, everybody were here cheering for you. And what an awesome content from you. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you guys for bearing with us through this the not so reliable Dubai Wi-Fi.
And one more time, how do you help Amazon sellers?
Yeah, Trivium Group is an Amazon advertising agency. It acts like a partner. So we basically integrate with your team. It's usually a pod of 5 people. So me and 4 other people, and we do a Slack channel together. We work together. We identify goals, and then we do all of this stuff. But it's not like we're doing it independently and there's an account manager. It's just a collaborative effort, like you were to hire a team part-time. And then we send weekly analytics showing the spend, the sales, the profits, click-through rate, conversion rate, cost per click. So you see the full picture. And then based on that, we either are taking an action of like, let's increase sales, increase spend, or let's cut down spend and become more profitable. And everything is very transparent. You get all the sheets and everything. And we do a daily update. So every single day, our team goes into the account. It identifies what happened yesterday, what the goals are, and if there's anything that's outside, we immediately have a plan of action and we iterate. So there's a lot of like touch points in the account. So that's kind of what we do. We do PPC and we do DSP. And it's just, we're here. There's no secrets. Everything that I showed you is what we're doing. We just have a team and we operate very efficiently at scale. We have a lot of sheets that we've created with macros that allow us to take action. But there's nothing that you can't do on your own. So that's why I'm out here sharing this stuff. If you can't afford to hire someone when you're starting out like I did, then I'm hoping that this is good enough. That's how I learned PPC. I watched a ton of stuff like this. So, I'm trying to give back the same way I sucked information when I first started.
Okay, bye.
Awesome,
Good luck in your business. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you.
All right. And now I would like to invite you to watch the whole playlist on our YouTube channel where we talk and we collected all the videos about PPC. So it will help you to increase your profits.